Hey fellow nerds, today we'll talk about the Chola Empire, one of the greatest empires that India has ever seen, forged in the fires of war. In this video, you will learn how difficult it was to establish a kingdom in southern India back then, as kingdoms from Tamilikan and from the Deccan fought for every inch of land. And despite that, Cholas emerged from out of nowhere and established themselves an empire, the likes of which very few in the Indian history, or rather the whole world, can match. So, what was South India up to this whole time? The last time we left South India, the Tamil Sangam period had ended and a dynasty named Kalabhras Dynasty had taken over. And they had almost come out of nowhere. Seriously, we know nothing about them. There's nothing written about them. And we don't know where they came from or where they went. Not their political history or their kings or their religion or even why they were able to rule over such a martial land for 300 years uncontested. But around 575 AD, it fell. That's because the Pandya kingdom, who were feudal lords under them probably, allied with the Pallava dynasty outside of the Kalabhras Empire and overthrew them. Seriously, the Pandyas do not seem to die. You will see that after literally every empire from in between 500 BC to 1500 AD, the Pandyas just keep returning. Like, I am sure had the British not come here, we would have seen literally one more emergence of the Pandyan Empire somehow. And recent archaeological discoveries say that the Pandyan kingdoms could have been older than 500 BC. After this rebellion, everything south of the Kaveri River was Pandyan territory, and everything north of the Kaveri River and south of the Krishna River was Pallava territory. I know who the Pandyas are. They have been here since the Sangam age. But where did the Pallavas come from? The Pallavas had emerged around the time of the collapse of the Satvahana Empire. It had consolidated its power in modern day Andhra Pradesh, and while Satvahana Empire used Sanskrit as its language, Pallava dynasty started using Tamil as its primary language. And over time, the language and the script used to write that language diverged from Tamil and became early Telugu. It was their script that was exported to Southeast Asia to become the basis of the scripts of Southeast Asian languages like Thai. They can be divided into three different dynasties. The early Pallavas, the later Pallavas, or the Pallavas that came across after the fall of the Kalabhras dynasty, and the Pallavas under the Kadava dynasty. We don't know much about the early Pallavas. The later Pallavas came to power after the fall of the Kalabhras dynasty and are the people that created the Telugu language and innovated on temple building. The Kadava dynasty was the reserve dynasty that came to power when there were no more heirs in the main dynasty. It branched off from the founder of the later Pallavas, Simha Vishnu. They mostly coasted on the glory of the previous main dynasty. Something interesting about them is that according to a Sangam age legend, they were founded by a Chola prince. So when eventually the Chola Empire captures them, it comes full circle. So then what about the Pandya dynasty? The Pandya king to rebel against Kalabhra was called Kandugon, and by their third king, Sendan, they had conquered the Chera country or modern day Kerala. For some time, the two kingdoms of Pandyas and Pallavas shared hegemony over the Tamilikan kingdoms, and they rarely fought. But then, as the early Chalukya dynasty in the Deccan got overtaken by the Rashtrakuta Empire and Eastern Chalukyas, war had returned to Tamilikan. The two kingdoms fought the Rashtrakuta Empire and amongst themselves. During this turbulent period, these two kingdoms started to weaken, and that is where the Chola dynasty emerged. Vijayalaya Chola, who was but a feudal lord under the Pallava dynasty, moved into Pandyan land and conquered Tanjavur and nearby areas, establishing the Imperial Cholas around 852 AD. The Pandyas weren't about to take it lying down. They invaded the newly created Chola country and conquered them 12 years after their independence. This had made them a feudal lord of the Pandya Dynasty. But not for long. Vijaya Chola was succeeded by his son Aditya Chola. Hey, a king with my name, and he won't be the last one. You see, the Pallava dynasty had believed that the Chola kings had gone to conquer Tanjavur for them. So around 880 AD, the Pallava dynasty sent a contingent of their soldiers help Cholas reconquer Tanjavur for themselves. The Cholas allied with the Pallavas and the Western Gangas from where Aditya Chola's mother had come from, and they freed Tanjavur from Pandya hegemony once and for all. Aditya Chola then spent 17 years consolidating his power, only to then turn around and conquer Pallava dynasty. He would spend the rest of his life in Pallava country trying to integrate it into his empire. And that is where he would die, in Pallava capital, where his son Parantaka I would build a Shiva temple over his ashes, and he would reign for a long time. But the beginning of his reign wasn't exactly peaceful. You see, Aditya Chola had two wives, one from the Rashtrakuta Empire and the other from the Chera kingdoms. Parantaka I was the son of the Chera princess, which made the Rashtrakuta Empire angry, and they decided to attack the Chola country, only for them to be defeated. Parantaka would chase them out of his country and into Rashtrakuta lands in order to defeat them one more time for good measure. Parantaka did not mess around, and to demonstrate exactly that, Parantaka then turned around and conquered the rest of the Pandyan country and hunted down the Pandyan royalty, only to find out that they had crossed over the sea to Sri Lanka, where he found them and he killed them. He even conquered the northern coast of the island for himself in the process. Parantaka would then go on to reign 40 more years after his conquest of Sri Lanka. He really did not mess around. In that time, he would build canals that would stand to this day, and he would change the Tamil village system forever. And in those 40 years, he led many expeditions north and raided many territories. His inscriptions never failed to mention that his empire had territory further north than any of his predecessors, though we don't have any other proof to confirm it. Towards the end of his reign, basically 6 years before he died, Krishna III of Rashtrakuta Empire would attack the Chola country again. And in its defense, he would send his princes, and his first son, Rajaditya, would die in that battle, and they would even lose their northern territory of Takkulam. As he withered away towards the end of his life, not only would he lose his northern territory to Rashtrakuta Empire, but the Pandyas would start rebelling, and they would regain their southern lands under his son's reign. The Chola Empire would even lose their holdings in Sri Lanka. His second son, Gandhara Aditya, would then take over, only to die within 1 year of his ascension. And he was then followed by his third son, Arinjaya, who also died within 1 year of his ascension. We don't know why either of them died. We just know that they died one after the other rather quickly. Gandhara Aditya's son was but a small child at the time when his father and his uncle died, so the throne went to Arinjaya's son, called Parantaka II or Sundar Chola. When Parantaka II found himself on the throne, the Chola Empire was going through great trouble. It had lost most of its Pandyan territory, 2 kings had died one after the other, and there was a competing claim to the throne from his cousin. How did Chola Empire even survive this? You seem to be forgetting his name. Needless to say, just like his namesake, Parantaka II was him. The first thing he did was to try and reconquer the Pandyan country. The inscriptions mention that he caused rivers of blood to flow in his attempt to reconquer. His son, Aditya Karikalan, was just 12 at this time, and he had distinguished himself in battle. He even chased Veer Pandya, the king of the Pandyan kingdom, and killed him. In this battle, the Sri Lankans had allied themselves with the Pandyans. So Parantaka II or Sundar Chola would chase them down and conquer northern Sri Lanka again. But that was not all he was going to do. He turned around and attacked Rashtrakuta Empire to reconquer the lands he lost just 1 generation ago. Damn, he really was something. But when do we get to Raja Chola? Sundar Chola's younger son, Arulmozhi Varman, is Raja Chola. Oh, the book Ponniyin Selvan, which is another name for Raja Chola, written by Kalki Krishnamurti, talks about the end of Sundar Chola's reign. It is a series written in between 1950 and 1954. It's an excellent historical fiction that I absolutely recommend. And recently, there was even a pretty good adaptation of it. While it stylizes many events and adds details that we literally do not know anything about, what it does take from history is pretty accurate. You see, towards the end of Sundar Chola's reign, a grave danger hung over the Chola dynasty. There was an assassination plot against both of his sons, probably thought of by Pandyan royalty, while Sundar Chola himself had fallen ill. All the while, Uttama Chola threatened civil war to take his rightful place on the throne. It really seems that the reign of both Parantakas begin and end with grave danger. And so, despite being separated, the three children of Sundar Chola, including his daughter Kundavai, came together through trials and tribulation and put their heads together to overcome the situation they found themselves in. Arulmozhi Varman narrowly survives his attempt against him, but Aditya Karikalan falls to it. The author Kalki speculated that it was because of his PTSD for having killed Veer Pandya at the age of 12. Yeah, that would mess anyone up. But the assassin could have succeeded for any number of reasons. And then, to avoid civil war, Arulmozhi Varman would give up his throne to his uncle, Uttam Chola, and he would go on to reign for 14 peaceful years for a deal that Raja Chola would end up being the heir to his uncle. And when he does come to the throne, he would change the shape of his empire forever and be the one to take his local kingdom to a true blue empire. I will talk about him in the next episode. Oh, come on! See you next time.